Hey, welcome to this week market analysis. So as usual, quick disclaimer, of course, everything we'll be covering in today's session are solely based on education purposes. Okay, I'll be covering some of the key opportunities that I'm personally looking out for as well. But just bear in mind that they do not directly constitute to any sort of financial advice. Okay, or trade signals. Okay, you probably need to also have your own proper trading plan and risk management in place. Right. So I'll start off with the overview of the market in terms of the economic event. What are some of the things to note? And then we'll jump into the technical charts. Okay. Look into some of the markets and then see you guys have any questions that you guys would like to actually ask, and from there I'll answer them. Okay. Good. So quick one here. Okay. What we have is that okay, this week, if you really scan through the economic data, we do have a couple of important news coming in on Wednesday. Okay, so we have the Bank of Japan rate statement. Okay, that's definitely going to be important. Now you realize that I'm actually using a slightly different calendar over here. For those of you who are interested, you can actually go to everythingtrading.com, right? Create a free account and then you can utilize this economic insights data. So something that is a little bit unique is that you'll be able to see that historically they actually give you some ideas in terms of like how that event volatility is going to be. Okay, so for example, if you're going to look at the Bank of Japan rate statement, okay, so they give you an insight and say that we measured 108 pips volatility in the 4 hours after past event, right? So give you some slight insight in understanding whether this particular news itself would create a bigger volatility or generally, it's just, non-eventful. Okay. So if you like this kind of insights and ideas, right, just go over to everythingtrading.com, create a free account. Once you log in on the left, just go over to advanced tool economic insights. You can gain all this information. Right. So first thing to note, of course, is the Bank of Japan rate statement, and then if you go into Thursday, okay, midnight, we have the FOMC rate statement as well. Okay, following that with the Bank of England, and of course, going into Friday, we have our NFP. Right, so in fact, this one you can see here, right? NFP volatility on average has given about like 75 to 80 pips kind of range. So that gives you a very good idea in terms of today you're trading a news trade strategy. Right? How much should you target, right? So that also comes back to where I shared with you guys before in news trading strategy, why we're targeting a certain range, why we are targeting a certain profit target. It's really because, I've observed NFP since I think a couple of years ago, we don't really get like 100 to 150 pips movement anymore, right? We kind of get like 50 plus 60. So historically, you can see over here is about 70. Okay. So those are some of the things to note for this week. We have the Bank of Japan, we have the Fed, with the Bank of England, and of course we have the the NFP coming in on Friday. Okay. So if you're trading any instrument related to all this here, of course, just bear in mind. Okay. Of course, we'll be looking at a lot of dollar pairs, so that's something to note as well. Okay. So I'll start off with the dollar index. Okay, dollar index, my overall perspective and directional bias here remains bullish. Okay, so of course I would love to see a little bit more of a pullback first before another push up. Potentially that can also develop into an expanding flat, right? So we get a decent bounce. The market has been consolidating, entire of last week. But we're definitely bullish, right? So any sort of a corrective pullback here will give us a buy opportunity. So why bullish? Because I'm looking at this from the top as a 1, 2, 3. Very nice channel structure. We have a decent bounce at the bottom here as well. Okay, so the expectation right now is that as long as price remains above this low at 103.65, I will remain bullish and I expect price to actually go back, retest the top of the channel, or potentially even breaking that channel itself. Now if you translate that to the euro dollar, okay, then obviously we are going to be bearish. Okay, so over here, what we have is the market also put in a pretty decent rejection. Okay, so kind of corrective crawl structure, 3-wave move here. Very nice channel structure, so we're expecting continuation to the downside. If we can get any sort of a corrective pullback, that will be a sell trade setup. Okay, definitely you don't want to be selling here, right? Because the market is, potentially completing the cycle. Would want to be patient and wait for a pullback, right? Ideally a corrective pullback, maybe retesting some of the zone here. Okay, that would be a nice little confluence for us to look for a sell. Okay, so that area, rough estimation is somewhere around 1.0880. Okay, give it a couple of days, see how the market develop from there. Pound dollar currently testing the 50% mark. I do expect some sort of a bounce from here. Okay, so what I'm seeing on pound dollar is essentially a WXY structure. Okay, completed a 3-year cycle here, a pullback, and then a 5-wave internal here, a pullback, and kind of expecting this to push up. Okay, but we will definitely want to be a little bit patient and wait for some sort of a confirmation from the market first that it's indeed wanting to bounce. Okay, so I would say what you want to ideally see is either, this continue to do a crawl and starts to form a very obvious wedge crawl structure. You can be aggressive and take the breakout from there. Okay, or alternatively wait for a clear break. Right now would be this little structure here. Momentum, impulsive break, and then wait for the pullback. Then that would give you a buy trade opportunity to the upside. Okay, obviously not buying now, but we're starting to rotate our directional bars. Okay, and start positioning and see can we get an opportunity to look for a buy setup with an expectation where price would hit higher towards 1.3170. Okay, so that's on the pound dollar. Aussie dollar here neutral. The market has been putting in a impulsive move to the downside for almost the entire of last week, ending off with just a little bit of a slight pause. Okay, so with that kind of momentum push, obviously we are going to be bearish, no doubt about it. But you don't want to be selling at the bottom, right? You always would want to wait for some sort of a decent pullback before you jump in and sell again. So my take here is there's a very good chance for almost the entire of this week we'll likely see the market pull back, okay, which means there's really nothing much that I would rather focus on. There's nothing much that we will be able to focus on Aussie dollar. I would rather look at something else. Okay, so that's on the Aussie dollar side of things. Dollar Canadian, pretty impulsive break here as well. I think with the market currently testing this high, okay, I would remain neutral for now, right? Really just want to see how the market is going to react off certain key areas. One or two things are likely going to happen. If this is going to continue just crawl here, okay, where the previous high is, I'll be very much interested to see if we can sell it down. Okay, if the market decides to just comes down impulsively from here, then I'll wait for a pullback and then I'll sell this as well. Okay, if the market starts to pull back from here correctively, then I'll be more inclined to look for upside. So it really depends on what's next. Okay, what is the market gonna be developing around the zone, right? Again, as I mentioned, either of those things are likely gonna happen. You just need to wait, observe how the market is gonna develop from here on. Dollar yen short term, I'm looking at the opportunity to actually buy this up. Okay, now this buy here would be short term, right? Because the market has put in a pretty extended move to the downside. I kind of expect a decent size of a pullback. We did get a tiny bit of a bounce, right? So if you kind of look at it from a bigger scheme of things, okay, this is definitely bearish, right? Because after this pullback, we'll definitely still want to look for sell. Okay, I mean, that's a momentum move here. Short term, I'm referring to more of like internally within the week itself. If you can get a setup to buy into it, then we can trade this pullback, right? Understanding that the market is likely going to pull back, that also opens up the opportunity that we can trade it up. Okay, this one here, if I really go down into a little bit more details for this week, we may get an opportunity to buy in. Okay, I would say a setup here to look for a buy trade, right? But of course, given that we also have the NFP given that we have FOMC, given we have Bank of Japan, you obviously want to factor in, are you comfortable still trading the dollar again? Okay. But for now, this would likely be a setup that I would look into if the price can come down a little bit more, maybe towards 152.75 zone. That might give me a buy opportunity. Okay, and of course, we'll stop below here, and then my primary target will be there. If you want to go for extended target, possible as well. Okay, but I just want to highlight on that as a possible opportunity that you can pay a little bit more attention for the week. Gold XAU are definitely bearish here. Okay, but I think short term we're likely going to see some pullback. Internally, I think this 5-wave structure seems to have completed pretty clear 5-wave as well. Okay, in orange you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Everything fulfills. After a 5-wave completion, there's a very good possibility we'll see some sort of a deeper pullback. Okay, so potentially towards that 50 and 618 zone. Whether short term you can look for a buy, really up to individual. But I would say somewhere around here would ideally be a sell trade, right? So if you take a look, if I zoom out a little bit, 3-wave structure. Okay, we're kind of expecting a 3-wave move down, then only maybe a bigger move back up, right? So gold is something that you can definitely pay a little bit more attention to as well. If I clean up everything here, if you want to trade the short-term move to the upside, definitely some opportunities to look out for as well. Okay, I mean, we do have some confirmation that the market, okay, is shifting higher. We do have, if I just pull in this fib here first, right, swing low to swing high, we do have a little bit of a confluence where this 71 fib does come in a little bit towards where the previous, I would say, demand or the block is. Okay, now why is that the case? You can see over here the market push up, we does have a pullback, and then the market continue to push higher, right? So this leg here, that minor pullback forms an order block. Okay, and of course this order block here also results in a break of this previous structure. So there's a good confluence over there. Okay, so gold is something that if you're keen, again, we have NFP and sort of just this is not a trade, or financial advice. It's just more of like sharing with you ideas that you can really, incorporate into your own trade plan. Right, so gold is something that you can keep an eye on as well. Crude oil, we do see crude oil coming into the 618, started to stall a little bit around that zone as of last week. So the primary projection in terms of direction right now is definitely bullish. Now what I like about this is also, of course, the market seems to be stalling around that 618, which means it's not really moving lower with momentum. Okay, there's a good possibility it will start to build into a crawl as well. Okay, we don't really get a divergence at this moment. Okay, if I can change this a little bit. We do get a little bit of a divergence, right? Not the most obvious divergence there, but still a little bit over there. So there's a good possibility this would likely form sort of a crawl structure, and upside is definitely the direction I'll be focusing on. Okay, so that's on crude oil. But of course, in terms of trade setup, I think we'll probably need to give it a little bit more time. I think really nothing that is very obvious at the moment. Okay, there's really nothing very obvious at the moment. So that's on crude oil. S&P, we did get a pretty decent bounce off that 50% mark as of now. Okay, I've been sharing that S&P here after an extended move, this is something that we can expect. We came down to 50%. We do see some side bounce. It's a little bit too early to say that the correction may have completed, because what we can also see from here is that this can just be a corrective retracement to correct this 3-wave cycle, and then we can also still see another 3-wave move down to retest that area. Very, very possible. Okay, because if you look at it from a proportion perspective, okay, you can see that this pullback, okay, in terms of the magnitude of it, okay, if you extend this over here, we do have a little bit more downside, right? And if that pulls back were to come towards this territory, you can see the nice little confluence in terms of like previous structure area as well. Okay, so I'm not going to be surprised if, let's say, the market decides to pull back a little bit deeper, building into the election as well. Whether you want to call it manipulated or not, this can build into the election, and when the post-election happens, the market starts to see some positive sentiment. That's very, very common. Okay, so that's also something that's possible. So what I mean over here is that, of course, if you're looking at S&P, don't rule out the possibility where we get another push down, even with this bounce. Okay, so my directional bias for now is still going to be neutral. Of course, this will need to be updated, but I'm going to be neutral. I want to give it more time and see really how the market is going to react, right? If this just goes back up impulsively, some sort of a V shape here, of course, that will give us a higher probability market may have completed this pullback. But if it struggles to pull back, okay, and it do something like that, then it puts up the possibility we get one more push. Okay, so that's on S&P. The yen pairs here, I think I would focus more on the dollar yen. Pound yen, odd yen, nothing there. Okay, I mean, this is just one clear impulsive drop. You need to give the market some time and see what's going to develop before committing to the direction. So I think this two here, I'm just going to be neutral. Pound odd, pretty neutral as well. Give it a little bit of time, but of course, if you go down to the lower scale of things, it may build into a possible sell trade. Okay, not the best of things, but we do get to see that the market came down a little bit of momentum here. We are seeing that kind of pullback here, of course, with this broken. So in terms of Elliott wave, right, this can be a ABC kind of expanding flat structure for another push down. But really depends on how aggressive you are. Okay, if you ask me, I would personally be a little bit conservative on this particular trade idea. The momentum to the upside is very strong. Okay, so if you're gonna look to trade the pullback, kind of a counter trend, I'm just gonna be a little bit cautious on the pound off. Okay, but of course, if you look at order flow perspective, we do have the fair value gap there. Okay, we do have this as a potential supply zone as well. If you take in a little bit of Fibonacci confluence, we do have something right around that 71 over here. But as I mentioned, okay, this is something that I may not want to pay too much attention as of now. But depending on how the market is going to evolve moving forward, I might come back to it. Okay, Euro Canadian, definitely focusing on the sell side of things. Last week, actually, I was already anticipating that, looking for that potential move to the downside. Okay, but it took a little bit more time to develop, but I think right now it's quite clear. Okay, it's quite clear on this. Definitely my bias here is bearish, right? I'll be more inclined to look for sell trade opportunity instead of buying it. And of course, the projection of things here is that we're expecting market primarily, or say minimally, to come back towards that 50% mark. Okay, so this one here, if you go into the lower time frame structure and look for trade setup, is definitely going to be there. Okay, of course, then the question is just more of like how aggressive you're going to be looking out for trade ideas, right? I think right now it's still a little bit early, right? Because again, we are in a Monday market. Prices are still pretty much close to the bottom, right? If this continue to drop, then we need to readjust things like that. I always want to give it at least some sign and prove that this minor low has been established. The market is pulling back. Then only I place my pending order, right? But as of now, the confluence over here is pretty neat as well, right? You can see where the market actually make a dip, does a little bit of consolidation, and then make another impulsive drop. So this area, definitely some supply over there. Okay, so again, right now, if this starts to pull back, this will be an area to look for a sell. The other thing, of course, you can see this momentum push has taken out a couple of pretty crucial minor low as well, right? So overall, this one here seems to be ready Of course, from a wave count perspective, we can also see that this diagonal or cross structure internally has a 5 move inside as well, right? So that also can conclude that potentially this diagonal is completed. We have RSI divergence, very, very obvious. So multiple confluences on Euro Canadian, right? So yeah, that's definitely one of the highlighted pairs to keep a little bit more attention onto it for a trade. Okay, cryptocurrencies, BTC, the market continue to make a push higher. Just gonna be patient on this. I don't want to be buying at the very, very top. But definitely the direction here is bullish, right? 100%. Okay, the thing here is just wait for that pullback to give you the opportunity to get involved at a more sensible entry price with a more sensible stop loss, right? Because again, if you're entering at the very, very top, okay, your risk is going to be huge, right? Because if you enter here, where are you going to put your stop? You need to put it here, right? So huge. But if today you wait for the pullback, you enter a trade here or even here, your stop just need to be below. Very, very healthy risk to reward ratio. Okay, so BTC bullish. But I just want to wait for the pullback. Okay. Yeah, so in general, those are some of the analysis. Very, very quickly, let's take a look at some of the global indices. Okay. So let me just very, very quickly update this. Possibility of pullback. This is NASDAQ, right? So again, we are kind of expecting quite similar to S&P, right, in terms of this. The Dow here seems to be a little bit cleaner in terms of how the structure is developing. Okay, we have this first leg down, pull back here, retesting the 50%, seems to be rejecting off that as well. There's a good possibility we're going to see a simple 3-wave. Just a simple 3-wave development that looks something like that. Okay. Right now, that's the take, right? German DAX, still not the cleanest thing of all. I think right now the market is probably one more move to the downside again, but this here can really chop quite a bit, right? You can see over here. Okay, so this development might take longer than we can anticipate, but I think overall direction right now from a bigger scheme of things is zoom out, right? We are looking at this as a possibility one more drop. Okay, so that's on German DAX. If you ask me, I'm probably not going to be focusing too much on this. FTSE kind of did a break here and then bounced up very impulsively. So how I'm going to look at this here and kind of readjust this analysis, okay, is that I'll take it from this angle here. Okay, so that move to downside kind of like made it with this impulsive break and then bounce. So again, when the price actually successfully break all this low here, okay, this leg here, it can be considered as a simple 1 triangle 2 3. Okay, so 1 triangle 2 3 possible. Okay, and of course with that very sharp V-shaped bounce, then we'll take this as a recent low that has been established. Okay, whether E is here, I think we'll just put it there. It looks neater like that, right? That will be a triangle. Okay, so if that's gonna be the case, then this will be a very impulsive leg. Right now we'll be then expecting some sort of a corrective pullback if you can get that upside potential. Okay, so that's on FTSE. A50, we didn't really get that move back up. You can see that's the confirmation of area. So we didn't get that, and the market kind of bounced back lower. Let me just readjust this a little bit and see how, what's the clearest structure as of now. Okay, probably see a little bit more downside from current take. Oops. Okay, we'll probably see a little bit more downside from current take, and of course, this would now be established as our current pivot area, right? Pivot points. yeah, so I think if I zoom out a little bit even further, there's a good possibility we'll see a little bit more downside from where we are right now. Okay. So perhaps something like this. Okay, that would be what I'll be looking out for. Okay. So yeah, that's on A50. Hang Seng here, kind of like pretty similar, right? We're kind of looking at this here, potentially extending to downside. I think that's a very high possibility. Not the clearest index to be trading, to be honest. Okay. Let's see this one here. Good. It bounced off that 38.2. Let me adjust this a little bit. Yeah, okay, so I think this one here, since we had a pretty decent bounce off that trade too, right? My take right now is that if we can get a corrective pullback, we're likely gonna start seeing more upside. Because that trade 2 bounce is pretty significant in terms of like previous areas as well, right? So Aussie here, in terms of the index, right, as long as price can remains and respect this low, okay, remains above that low, respect that low, we can start to expect a little bit more upside. Okay. Switzerland side of things came down, tagged the wave 4 potential area very nicely. So we are kind of expecting it to go up a little bit more, complete the 5th wave out there. Okay, so bullish bias on this. I think this one here pretty clear as of now as well. Bear in mind, it doesn't necessarily need to do a push up, but this looks pretty much like a ending diagonal structure, right? So again, as long as price respect this low, we're gonna expect one more upside. Okay. Good. Yeah, so generally that's the take that I have in terms of like the outlook of the market for the week. So again, going back a little bit on the summarized version, okay, what we are looking at for now, right now, primarily would be the dollar yen, gold, okay, as well as euro cat. I think this tree here, definitely the key focus for myself. Okay, but as the market continues to develop throughout the week, obviously, things would change. Okay, so we'll see how the market continue to develop. Okay, quick couple of instruments here. US 30, I think we covered just now already. Okay, if you take a look at the odd cat, okay, really nothing there, right? I would say odd cat is just a very impulsive link. I think very similar to Aussie dollar, right? Probably just want to give it a little bit more time right now. Euro pound, right? Euro pound. Let's see. Yeah, I think Euro pound here may give us a little bit more downside. The reason for that is I'm looking at it from a perspective where this pull back wasn't very impulsive. We kind of get a momentum move back down as of today. So I'll be looking at it from the angle where this can be developing some sort of a potential 5-wave structure. Okay, and this would just be your internal pullback, right? Okay, so short term here, if price is gonna respect this high, there's a very good possibility we'll see a little bit more downside. Okay, so that's on Euro pound. ETH over here, I would say very much similar to Bitcoin in terms of the overall direction. Okay, we did get a bounce off this area, so definitely pretty neat. The market did a pullback of V here. Just be open that there is the possibility where this can develop into a 3 wave. Okay, But again, as long as price remains above that low, we'll be interested more in the upside instead of selling. Okay. Do bear in mind that it can also mean that this low is completed, right? If it pulls back its corrective here, you can start to look for upside, right? This can be a 1, 2, 3. Okay. So overall direction, bullish, right? I think general sentiment for crypto is bullish moving forward for now. Good. Cool. So yep, I hope that's helpful. Okay. So with that, all the best for the week ahead. Okay, and I'll keep you guys updated again on a day-to-day basis, right? So that's all. Okay. See you guys. Bye bye.